working.
There we go. I got you. I can hit record whenever you want me to.
Yeah, up to you now. I'm streaming. Just gotta wait to see if it comes on. Nothing's happening yet.
Uh,
Yeah, hang on.
Now I'm
Yeah, it's on. It's
I'm
on.
I'm gonna mute out my
Just gotta wait
mic
just to see if it comes on.
so that
Yeah.
it's a clean recording. I'll
Okay.
come in and undo it whenever I want to ask questions, but other than that, I'll mute it.
Right. So we're live. Oh. Right then. I'll do a countdown and then we'll start from there, Roger. Okay. You don't have to reply. Just to let you know. Okay, we're 2 minutes early. Do you want to wait till 11? Start it properly, or do you want to start now, or what do you want to do? Hang on, I need to get my camera on, don't I? Whoops.
I'm easy, either way.
Here I am.
Aha, there you are.
Right. I suppose I better leave it till 11, because otherwise people say, oh, well, it's kind of start at 11, and you started before. I thought, okay. But I had put my light on today, I think. It gives me a headache, my light does. It's so bright. Oh. And put light on. Here we go. It's better, a bit better. Right. Yeah, so what are we going to talk about today? I've made some notes about your first episode of your podcast, because that's what you wanted to do, start from the first one.
Yeah.
So this may not be as long as the other podcasts, because the other podcasts are longer and more in depth. But we'll just see how it goes, And I think Roger might have some questions for you as well. So
Okay.
just play it by ear. So if it's okay, I'll start off a brief intro of what this is about, and if you want, I can either bring it to you so you can tell people about yourself, or I can bring it to you from my first question. It's entirely up to you. How would you rather do it?
I'm completely free and easy that way. I really
Okay.
don't mind. Whatever you find easiest.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me, because most people know you now by now, what you're about on here if they've been watching the streams. But if you want to introduce yourself, you can do that first, and then I can start to the questions. It's entirely up to you.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
that'd be better then, because it'd be more professional. So right then, what I do, we're going to start. I'm just going to see if there's anyone commented. No one has. So, 3, 2, 1, go. Hi guys, this is the first episode of Water into Wine, which is a series based around Michael Paul's podcast. And what I will do is each week there's going to be a different subject to do with his podcast episodes. So what I will do, I haven't done it at the start of the stream, but it will be added after, and any backups we make of this, it'll be added to that. So each subject is going to be different theme completely, and I'm basically going to be asking Michael about the questions. I will leave links for each episode on each stream, so you can listen to them and make your own conclusions, and maybe watch back the questions and and stuff like that. So that's basically what it's about, because Michael has got I think it's 15 years of podcasts. I think it was 15 years. His sort of insights to looking into different things to do with his experiences, and looking for answers to the questions he had, and quite a fascinating journey, to be honest. And with that, I'm going to give you to Michael Paul, to him to give you a bit of background about himself, and then we'll actually start them proper.
Thank you, John. Well, I live at the time when all this started. I lived just outside London in Romford. I was a nightclub DJ as well as a mobile DJ, and I later became a radio presenter. I was actually a radio presenter when it first started, I think. And the whole gist of this was because I was going through something very profound and very life-changing, and I was desperately trying to cling on to facts, because it was just bizarre, the situations I was finding myself in. I now know through looking at different spiritual sites, they call it an awakening. At the time, I thought I was going mad. This started mid 90s, early 90s. And I started working in Hollywood's, the nightclub Hollywood's in Romford as a DJ on a Wednesday and Thursday night. And I started working with a guy called Russell Aylett, who ended up over the years, he ended up over 3 or 4 years that we were together the first time, he ended up being my best friend. We used to spend a lot of time together, and we used to leave Hollywood's and go to his flat and then sit and talk and watch some TV until daybreak. Then we used to go down the cafe and have some breakfast. And on one of these occasions, he started laying, he was quite a deep person, very intellectual, very intelligent. He was very grungy. He used to DJ the Monday nights in Hollywood, which was called Coma, and that was a grunge night. So he was very, actually, like I'm dressed now, baggy jumpers, jeans, t-shirts, and he was very sort of long hair. He had a darker hair, but he used to dye it blonde. He was completely opposite to me, completely opposite. But when we started talking to each other, there was a meeting of the minds. There was an understanding between the two of them, which was quite interesting, really, because he wasn't my type of person at all, and I wasn't his type of person at all. I'm a bit more straight-laced. So we went round his flat this one particular night, and he's playing cards while we're watching TV. And he found out that if he turned 4 cards over, it would either give you, because of the suits that the cards was in or the numbers, it would either give you a positive or a negative answer or a not sure. For example, 2 black, 2 red would be a not sure. 3 red and 1 black would be a yes, and so on and so forth. So, and he used to deal with it with the numbers as well. And he used to do this twisty thing. When he put the card down, he used to deal 4 cards and do a twisty thing with his thumb on top of the cards, like he was giving it good luck or something. And he noticed, before he'd said anything to me, he'd noticed that he was asking the cards control questions he knew the answers to. And when he turned the cards over, they were giving him the correct answers back. So he said, look, this is happening. So I went, no, it's nonsense. I was very, very material at that time. Everything was about what I could get, the money that I earned, and so on and so forth. So he said, well, you do it then. So I said, okay. I asked a question, dealt the cards. He done his twisty thing with his thumb on top of the cards, turned the cards over, and it gave the right answer. So then we progressed within about 15, 20 minutes to asking questions that we didn't know the answers to. And over the coming 2 or 3 weeks, we found out that the cards gave us the correct answer 2 or 3 weeks previously, which I thought was really, really weird. But it was just a fleeting thing that happened. While he was dealing these cards, he said, I wonder if there is an afterlife. I said, I don't suppose we'll ever know. He said, I wonder whether angels actually exist. So I said, we probably won't know, mate, will we, until we die, and then it's too late. You can't do anything about it. He said, all right, we'll make a pact between the two of us now. Whoever dies first comes back and tells the other one whether angels exist. So I went, all right, okay, that seems fair. I'd forgotten that 20 minutes after we'd had the conversation, because being material, it was a nonsense conversation that weren't really going anywhere. So I just agreed with it and we carried on. So we were together as friends for a couple of years, I think 3 years. And then he went off to Spain. So after, I think it was about 10 years or 12 years, I got a phone call. Hello, Mike, it's Russ. I said, hello, mate, how you doing? He said, yeah, I'm coming back to the UK. He said, so can you put me up for like a couple of nights until I find somewhere to live? So I said, yeah, of course I can. So I went and picked him up from Stansted Airport. Because his mother lived in Spain at that point, so he'd been staying with her for quite a few years. I picked him up from Stansted. We come back to my flat and he stayed with me a couple of nights, and it was just like it used to be. The relationship was still there. We used to laugh until we were virtually sick. And there was a joke I told him, a genital humour joke that he didn't find funny at all, because And this particular joke made him laugh until his stomach hurt. And that's one of the really fond memories that I've got of Russell. So anyway, we went round to different areas in Essex and Ipswich, visiting nightclubs that we'd worked in and talking to the managers that were there, and managers that were no longer managers anymore. And he couldn't find any work. He then said, I've got to find somewhere to live. So we rigged up 3 flats, 3 bedsits for him to go and look at in Romford. We went to see the first one, and it wasn't much cop. It was very damp in there and cold. And while we was at the first one, I got a call on my mobile that the third one, the second one couldn't make it at the time we'd specified. So could we move it till a little bit later on? So I said, yes, that's no problem. Then we rang the third one, and they said it's okay to be moved into the second place. So we went to see the second one, which was originally the third one. That was no good either. And then we went to see the third one, which was originally the second one. That was no good. So we walked out of the flat, and I'm going, so what are you going to do now then? You've got nowhere to live. And there was the YMCA, Romford's YMCA, right in front of us. So we went, let's try in there. Okay, yeah, no problem. So we went into the YMCA and walked up to the desk. I got this really bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. The minute we walked in, it was a really, really bad feeling. Said to the woman, he said, I want to live here for a while, if that's okay. She said, yeah, that's fine. And she picked up a key that was right in front of her on the desk. And she went, there you go. The lady's just cleaned it because the person before has just moved out. He went, oh, okay, no problem. Took the key, went into the lift. I'm still getting this really, really bad feeling about the place. And we came out on the 6th floor, turned left out the lift. There's cameras everywhere. And he went into the room. It was a very basic room. It was nice. It was okay. It was worth the money. There was just a wash basin and a cupboard and a bed. And it was quite, as I say, 6th floor. So it was quite high up, and it overlooked a car park behind. So he said, yeah, this is all right. I'll take it. And it was, I don't know, 100, maybe 115 pounds a week, something like that. So he moved in there. The following week, that was on the Thursday or the Friday of that week. The following week, I got a phone call over the weekend to book me to go and do a company DJ for a company in Birmingham. That was on the Wednesday night and the Thursday night. So I was working on a local radio station at the time. On the Monday morning, I said to them, can I have the Thursday and the Friday off? Yeah, of course you can. So I rang Russell. I'd seen him a couple of times, then he'd gone back to the hostel. And I rang Russell on the Wednesday afternoon when I was driving up to Birmingham. And I said, how you doing, mate? He said, yeah, no problem. Everything's okay. He said, looking forward to you coming back. Perhaps we can have a couple of drinks again. Yeah, because he did like his drink. So all of a sudden on the phone, it was a knock on the door like this. And hang on a minute, I've got to go because there's someone at the door. So he put the phone down. I done the gig on the Wednesday night. And on the Thursday night, I was just staying in a hotel room all on my own day Thursday. Thursday night, done the gig again. And on the Friday morning, I started coming back. It was about midday, I suppose, something like that. And I got a phone call from a female friend of ours that we used to work with in Hollywoods. Her name's Karen. And she said, have you been able to get hold of Russell? So I said, I haven't spoken to him since Wednesday afternoon. He was okay on Wednesday, though. I said, I can't see anything would have happened by then. He said, just that he's not answering any of my phone calls. So I said, I'll give him a ring. So I rang him up. Hello, Brussel. So I called him Brussel. It was stupid, I know. Hello, Brussel. It's only me. Give us a call, mate. Everyone's getting a bit worried about you. What are you doing? And he just put the phone down. So Friday night I got back and I went to bed. I wasn't feeling too well. I didn't have any gigs on the Friday or Saturday. So Saturday morning, I'm driving around Romford. I'm going to get some shopping and some food. And I get a phone call. Hello, is that Mike? So, yeah. Hello, this is the YMCA. We want to know, this was about 1 o'clock, I think it was, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We want to know if you've seen Russell, because he's paid for a week and we can't find him and we need another week's rent. So I went, I haven't seen him. I said, actually, I had a phone call from a female friend saying she hadn't spoke to him either. And I was going to leave it until Monday. And then if we still can't get anything from him, then I'll report him as a missing person. But he was quite a flighty person. So I said to the guy on the phone, if you go into his room, because they got all these pass keys that they get in any room, go into his room, look for his passport. If his passport's not there, I would say he's gone back to Spain. He's gone back to his mum. Okay, no problem. And then he called me again a couple of hours later. Hello, is that Mike? Yeah, speaking. Hello, this is so-and-so from YMCA again, and we want to know if you've spoken to Russell recently. So I said, no, we had this conversation a couple of hours ago. Did you go into his room? And he went, no, we didn't. So he went, well, I said, well, go into his room and look for his passport, because he's quite a flighty person. He may have just did a flick because he couldn't get any work and he didn't have any more money, so he's gone back to his mum. I said, if you want to, because it's going through somebody's belongings, and I can understand anybody not wanting to do something like that. I said, if you want to, I'll come with you, because Russell was a very private person as well. He wouldn't have liked that. I'll come with you, so you've got me to back you up, and we'll look for his passport together. Oh, no, that's okay. No. I now know that was the police calling. So 2 hours, 3 hours later, it's now got round to about 6, maybe 7 o'clock at night. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, has come round, and she went to put the kettle on, and I'm feeling a little bit fluey. The cold's taking hold of me, and I'm just dozing in a chair like this. And then all of a sudden the phone rings. Hello? And someone goes, why aren't you answering the door? Sorry? It was a withheld number. Why aren't you answering your front door? So what are you talking about? I went, because it was an upstairs flat, I'd opened the curtains and looked down, and there was 2 men in suits standing at the front door. So I went, hang on a minute, I'll come down. So I went down, and one of the guys, he said, I can't remember if he said Romford or Dagenham CID, but he said basically police, and he went to push past me. So I just stood still. I mean, Romford's quite a rough area, so I'm not letting someone who's a complete stranger into my flat. Do you know what I mean? I would have guarded it with my life. I can't be having people just coming in and nicking stuff. That's the basic gist of what I was thinking. So I stood firm, and then he stepped back, and then he pulled out his warrant card. The other guy pulled out a warrant card, and then the other guy we went like this to the doorway next to us, and a WPC stepped out from the doorway in full police uniform. So I said, oh, okay, come in then, guys. So they come in. I said, what's this about then? What's the matter? Oh, we want to talk to you about Russell. I went, oh, as we're walking up the stairs, go on, what's he done now? I was half laughing. I think myself, he's gone and done something and got himself into trouble. Up the stairs. What's he done now? Can we talk when we get upstairs, Mike? Yeah, of course we can. Yeah. Went upstairs, and I said, come on, you got to tell me what he's done. And he went, we've found a body, and we think it's Russell. I can't even begin to tell you. The room shrunk. I felt very claustrophobic. It always makes me a little bit emotional when I talk about this, because the feelings are coming back. But I felt really, really lonely. It was a really awful, awful feeling that I would never, ever want to go through again. And then my girlfriend at the time came out of the kitchen with eyes like this, as if, oh. So I went, it's Russell, babe. They've found a body. We walked into the front room, and the 2 guys sat on the sofa, and I sat on a seat next to them. And they were playing good cop, bad cop. One wasn't saying anything and just glaring at me, and the other one was quite chatty. And I'm going, oh. So I immediately saw what was going on, and I went, oh, hold it a minute. You're looking to see whether I'm involved in whatever's gone on here. So he said, okay, where were you on, I think he said Wednesday night. I said, I was in Birmingham. Is there anybody that can vouch for you? So I said, yeah, it's about 250 people. I said, if you'd like me to, I'll give you the telephone number and the name of the agent that got me the job. He will be able to put you in contact with all the sound and lighting crew that I was working with all night. And you've got all the customers, although they may not remember who the DJ was. Oh, okay, all right. So that was sort of like a dead end. They didn't want to go down there any further, and they just started talking to me, and it kept dawning on me. It's a really weird situation when somebody springs something like that on you. You forget. You start a conversation, and you forget that he's dead. So I remember going, I said he's such an idiot sometimes. He really is. And then it went bong. You know that feeling in the pit of your stomach where it goes cold and you go, oh, he's dead. And that stopped me dead in my tracks in the conversation. I was quite tearful. And then the police finished off their talking to me and they said, do you mind if you come down and we might have some more questions for you? So I said, no, that's all right. I said, anything I can do to help you. I said, but please pull out all the stops and find out who done this. Now, the place is covered in cameras, the YMCA. They brought an image towards me with 3 blurred faces, and just Russell it was a black and white image, obviously taken from a CCTV. He said, can you tell me if that's Russell? So I said, yeah, that's him. That's Russ. I couldn't make out who the other people were. And it was a couple of months later, after this, I went and ID'd the body on the Sunday morning because they needed somebody to ID. And he looked bloated. He'd been laying in a wardrobe for 3 days. So obviously the body had started to decompose a little bit. He was bright green with areas of jet black on his face. It was a horrible, horrible scene, and it's something I will never ever get over. It still comes back every now and again, and I can still see it. Sorry. So I ID'd the body on the Sunday, and yes, I did to the policeman. Yes, that's him. And I ended up getting quite friendly with one of these policemen. He kept coming around and asking a few questions every now and again and going again. And a couple of months later, I think it was 3 months later, the Da Vinci Code was released. So in the Da Vinci Code, they kept telling you that there was, or Dan Brown kept explaining, there was works of art with certain symbolism, pagan symbolism in them. And this whole subject, I can't begin to describe it. It gripped me like no subject has ever gripped me before. I had a thirst for this knowledge that appeared out of nowhere. So me and the wife or the girlfriend at the time, it sort of like went round. I started digging on the internet and finding certain books. Didn't read too much of the books because I didn't want to be swayed in what I was finding in the book. I didn't want somebody else's opinion to veer off and tell me where to look. So I just kept digging, 25th of December, what's a manger, what was the colour of Christ, and it kept going on and on and on and on like this. And I just kept hours and hours and hours. I was doing this day after day after day. So I said to the girlfriend, let's go on different, city breaks. I want to go to Florence because I need to see the Birth of Venus by Botticelli in the Uffizi Museum. I want to go to Rome because I need to look in the Vatican first and foremost, and secondly in the Louvre. And I want to go to I want to go to the Vatican, and I want to go to Paris to see the Louvre. So yeah, okay, all right. So we started going on these city breaks, and while we was on the city breaks, I'm taking loads of pictures of all the architecture and everything else because it was just really fascinating me. We went up to monasteries that was high up in a hill, covered in gold leaf on the outside and inside. It must have cost an absolute fortune. And I was noticing the same shapes, the same geometric designs that I was seeing in the works of art. So I started taking pictures, and I'm noticing these little round circles of light appearing in the pictures. So we've come back, and it was just one or two. And I remember laying on a bed. My girlfriend was having a shower, and I was talking to it because it seemed like it was intelligently controlled. Call me weird if you will, but this was just an avenue I was going down. And I could ask for a certain amount of orbs to appear, and they would appear in the photograph or the video that I was taking. And that mystified me. So I come back, and I was taking nightclub shots of where I worked as a DJ for advertisement purposes. And then I went to see a friend of mine, John, who's heavily into photography. And I said, John, I'm having these little round circles of light appear, and they're turning up more and more and more and more. There's becoming, I said, in the last picture, there must be hundreds of them, not one or two like there was before. It seems whatever's going on, it's increasing and getting bigger. So he said, I said, I've looked on the internet, and they call them orbs. So he said, look, I've taken thousands of photographs in my front room and all over the place. He said, there's no such thing as these little orbs, spiritual orbs that you're asking for. He said, I've got a brand new camera in front of me. I think it's dust on the back of the lens. This brand new camera is perfect because I've used it. Let's go into my front room now and take some pictures. And I guarantee there won't be one orb in them. So I said, all right, come on in. So he said, all right, stand up against that wall there. I said, take 3 flash on and 3 pictures flash off. Okay, no problem. So I stood up against the wall, and he took the 3 pictures, then took another 3 pictures. He went back to his computer, took the SD card out, put it in the computer, and he went, right, first picture, bomb, nothing. He went, yeah, nothing. I said, I'm telling you, I don't expect to see anything in this because it's nonsense. Second picture, nothing. He went, there won't be any orbs in this picture. Third picture, there was about 6 orbs. And he went, oh, that's not the camera. I've used this camera. I can show you other pictures with this camera. It's perfect. It's a brand new camera. He said, it's not my front room because I've taken thousands of pictures in the front room because he used to picture animals on the desk. He said, there's nothing floating about in my front room like this. Otherwise, I'd have seen it before. He said, whatever this is, it's you. He said, and if it's increasing, there's something increasing within you to do this. So I went, oh, come on, John. I'm not Doris Stokes. Christ almighty, mate. What were you talking about? I said, I'm quite... And John is a very, very logical person. I said, I'm a logical person. There's got to be a normal answer for this. So he said, I don't know what it is. So I decided to go and see a medium. And the first medium I saw was a lovely lady called Lorraine Reese. She is absolutely phenomenal. Spooky scary, this woman is. Because I was working on local radio at the time. Went to see her. I think it was a Saturday afternoon when I weren't working. And she said, oh, come in, what's your date of birth? So I told her date of birth, and I gave her a different name, as I just said. And she said, oh, right, okay, you're born under the birth sign of Gemini. And then she went, oh, I've got your best friend here. So in my head, I've gone, have you? That's nice. It means nothing. The lucky guess, I suppose. She went, he's telling me to tell you, you really were his best friend. So I said, okay. And he died under very tragic circumstances. She said, in fact, he's come out of his body as he's dying, and he's observing everything that's going on the bed. Okay, all right. And then she just started crying. She said, he's showing me what they're doing to him. And she just burst into tears. And I felt like apologising for this, even though I haven't done anything. I felt like apologising to her. I'm really sorry I made you cry. She said, he keeps telling me you really are his best friend, and he's shouting at me to say angels exist. So at that point, my mind went back to a conversation that I thought I'd forgotten all about when we were in his flat. And he said, whoever goes first has got to come back and tell the other person whether angels exist or not. And that was like a slap round the face. That was like it really was a good kick. And I'm going, no, that can't be. And I'm going, but she just said it. This is all, and she's carrying on talking, and in my head, I've gone somewhere else. I'm like, I can't believe this has happened like this. So she told me the view from the window over a car park. She said, you're up high. She told me what they'd actually done to him. And because I was involved in the case with the police, I knew a certain amount of what she said. In fact, one of the police actually said they really worked on him, Mike. He said there was 70% or 80% of the wall was covered with blood. They really worked on him and took their time. So, and I'm going, but she's spot on. What she's saying is spot on. That can't be right. She can't be telling me that a dead person is talking to me and saying things like this. It can't happen. It doesn't happen. And I was so adamant. I sent my girlfriend in at the time. She told me a lot of things that Russ apparently said that he's been sent to get me because I have a job to do. So, and I still don't know what the job is. This is in total, I think it's 17 years now. So I sent my girlfriend in again, assumed name, because I thought, no, this woman is telling everybody what she told me. That's the only answer I could come to. And she told my girlfriend about her life, and then she told my girlfriend the same story as she told me about me. So I thought, she knows there's a link between me and this woman. So another friend of mine came forward. I want to see a medium, Mike. Right, this is the woman you need to go and see, Lorraine Reese. He went in there. I said, use an assumed name. I said, tell her nothing. Just confirm whether she's right or wrong, or deny whether she's wrong. So he went in there. He came out. He went, I can't believe that. So I said, was she right? She was spot on. And at the time, I was working in a radio station in Southend, and it had a very, very strange shaped window in the studio behind me where I was working. It was a really wide, not very high window. And you looked out across Thames Estuary. And she said, someone's going to train me. And he'd asked me to show him how to be a radio presenter because he was sick of working nightclubs. Someone's going to show me how to do a particular profession, I think he said it was. She didn't say what the profession was. She said, but I can smell fish and chips. It's a seaside town with this person, and I see a really, really weird shaped window. And she described to him now this Paul had never seen the window, and he described to me that she described to him the shape of the window behind me. So now I'm going, this is nonsense. I can't be having this. I went in again with a different name. This was 2 weeks, 3 weeks later. And she started telling me another story again about what's coming up for me, what's going on, what was in my life, what I'd done wrong, who had died. And she was spot on with every single aspect. And I'm looking for earpieces. I'm looking for recording devices. I know for a fact that she couldn't have Googled me because it's just, it was a made up name. So, and I kept going back and back and back to see Lorraine, and she just kept revealing more and more and more. And she then said, in one of the first interviews, she said to me, you're going to be approached in a couple of weeks by a guy who's going to offer you a part in a film. So I said, yeah, of course, love, because I'm Romford's answer to Brad Pitt. This was right at the start when I had no confidence in what she was saying. So you can hear me laughing. I had the tape a while ago. I don't know where it is now, but I had the tape quite a while ago, and you could hear me laughing on the tape. 2 weeks later, I was driving to work on a Friday night, going to Southend from Romford, and I got a phone call. So I've pulled the van over, lifted up the phone. I said, hello. And he went, hello, Mike. This is Steve. So I went, Steve who? And he went, it's Steve. Last time we worked with him was so-and-so. So I went, oh, Steve, I haven't worked with you for... And I went, oh, my God, it's 20 years. And at the back of my head, I had this nagging voice going, he's going to ask. He's going to ask. He's going to ask you to do something in a film. And then he went, I've got a favour to ask. So I said, go on then. And I've got my eyes closed at the time. And I'm going, no, don't ask. This scuppers my complete understanding of life. He said, how'd you fancy doing a part in a film? So I started shaking at that point, because it was just mind-numbingly ridiculous that this was the situation I found myself in. So I said, yeah, of course I can. He said, okay. He said, well, the director and the writer is Billy. He said, come down on Wednesday and we'll introduce you to him and all the rest of it. Never had a clue what the film was about. So I'm sitting there and I got this gut feeling that someone was trying to prove something to me. And I didn't have a clue what. So went to do the night's work. Came the following Wednesday. I went into Basildon and went into this block of flats and sat and spoke to Billy, who's behind the desk, and Steve was sitting on my left-hand side. And I said, yeah, hello. I said, apparently you need a radio voice. You need a radio presenter for a certain piece in a film. Yeah, that's right. Okay, all right. Yeah, well, yeah, you got the voice. I can hear the voice. Yeah, you've got the voice. He said, has Steve told you what the film's about? So I said, no, he hasn't. He said, well, I would say it's an English Da Vinci Code. And I went, oh my God, I've just been researching that. Now, this time I'm about a year away, maybe a year and a half away from Russ's death. So I went, I've just been researching that. And then Billy went to Steve, you're not going to get me this time, because I was always playing pranks to each other. And Steve went, oh, no. He went, I swear to God, Bill, I haven't told him what the film was about. I never said a word. So there was a stunned silence in the air, because it was a really weird coincidence. So anyway, we started filming. A few months went past. We started filming, and I found myself on a night shoot with a guy called Errol. Really, really lovely guy. And I ended up being quite friendly with him until he passed. And I'm standing there, and Errol went to me. He said, yeah, he said, I got involved in this. He said, because my agent knew Billy. He said, so it came round. I went and done a rehearsal for the part, and I got the part. Billy gave me the part. He said, how did you get involved? Because I've got a camera in my hand now, and it's about 2:00 in the morning in the middle of Basildon. We're shooting this film. So I went, well, I said, it's really strange, actually. I said, because I spoke to a medium, and she predicted that I was going to get called. Steve called me, and I got asked on a film. And I said, I've been researching the Da Vinci Code, which is obviously the bottom line of this film is very similar. I said, and it all started, weird stuff was starting happening to me as soon as I found out that my friend had been murdered in Romford. And he went, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Mike. He said, whereabouts did he get murdered? I said, he was in the YMCA. And then his eyes widened a bit, and he looked. What was his name, Mike? I said, Russell Aylett. And he went, oh my God, Mike, I was in the room next to him. I'm the one that raised the alarm. I told there was something going on. Something had gone on in that room. There was a smell. He went, and I was the one that pushed the staff to go in the room. So I went, oh my God. And I'd been to see other mediums in the meantime. So I said, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions now. Perhaps you can answer them, because they don't make any sense to me. So I said, he keeps running round and round and round and down, round and round and round and round and down. So he went, they turned the lifts off at 9:00 at night. I went, okay. He said, and that's the only way out. So I said, okay. So I said, he keeps going away and coming back, going away and coming back. So he went, yeah, that was, and he named the person. He said that he kept going away during the week and coming back at weekends and laying low. He said, to my knowledge, the police haven't spoken to this guy. So I went, all right, okay then. And there was another one that escapes me now, how many people were in the room, and he confirmed that it was right, these many people. And this other medium, Grace Kennedy from Canvey Island, fantastic medium again. She actually named the people, and this was about a year and a half, or perhaps a little bit longer, after Russell had died. So she knew, again, nothing about me, and she named the people that were in the room. And one of the names she gave me is the guy that ended up going to prison for it. And again, I got this gut feeling that someone is trying to prove something to me, and I've got to start paying attention. And from that point onwards, I was getting a huge amount of synchronistic events turn up. I was walking to work on Southend Seafront one morning. We had to, the car park was under construction, so we had to park in the Sea Life Adventure car park and then walk up to the radio station. So I parked there and I'm walking the length of Southend, and some guy was walking 3 or 4 paces behind me, and there was another couple, I don't know, 6 or 7 paces in front. And it was the Friday morning where they were getting ready for the air show. So there was a St John's ambulance reversing onto the pavement, and as it's reversing, it's going beep, beep, beep. Well, the couple in front of me just didn't even stop. They just carried on walking, and he had to slam his brakes on because he obviously hadn't seen them. But they just carried on walking right behind him. So I'd stopped a few 6, 7 paces away from the ambulance, and then the guy behind me had caught up with me. And in my head, I'm thinking, this can't be happening to me. These situations, I must be making these happen somehow, or I'm imagining it. And it was at the time when I thought I was going mad with all this. I'm seeing connections everywhere. And he went, look at those two. Look, they haven't got a clue what's going on around them. But you're different. You're listening. And I went, he's just give me the answer to the question that I was thinking. And I went, and by the time I turned around, he just carried on walking. The ambulance was up on the pavement, and he just disappeared. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And I stood there stunned. You've got to be kidding me. I can't believe you just said that to me. No, and at that point I thought, no, I am going mad. I'm imagining people and everything now, imagining conversations. This is loony land I'm going into. And the synchronistic events just kept happening. A while after that, my mother passed away, and it was in December, and we'd booked the cremation and what have you. It was early part of January, and that week I was having really weird stuff going on in the flat. My girlfriend had been woken up with somebody breathing in her ear. She'd never done it since, and she'd never done it before. She woke up, someone breathing in their ear, and she went to me, someone's in this room. Someone's here with us. So, right, okay. So I've got out of bed, put all the lights on, walked around the flat. I said, there's no one here. No, I'm telling you, there is someone in this room. I can feel it. Now, my wife, my girlfriend at the time, she's not a spiritual person like this. She doesn't do this sort of thing. She's never done it since. So we just ignored that, carried on, and the feeling passed. And then the following day, sitting there watching the TV in the bedroom, and the TV turns itself off. And this is the lead up to my mum's cremation. And then it turns on, then it turns off again. And I'm going, oh, that's it. TV's knackered. Got to get another television now. And then we was watching TV, and it changed channels, and it changed back again. And I'm thinking to myself, perhaps someone around here has just bought the same TV, and their remote is now affecting the TV. Change channels, change back again. And then during the week, the volume's going up, then the volume's turning off, and the volume's going up and turning off. It's turning off itself and then turning back on again. And I'm going, the TV is just broken. It really is. It really is just knackered. And then my mother was cremated, and we had the scatter the ashes where my father's ashes were scattered, and then everything just went and stopped. TV was right as rain, no problems with that. And we moved since then. We had the same television, not a thing wrong with that TV whatsoever. And I've had a lot of synchronistic events in my life that have pushed me to make decisions. So I've made the decision based on the synchronistic event, and 6 months down the line, I look back, and that was 100% the correct decision to make that I was wavering on making. One was walking out of a job. And it was 100% the correct decision, because now the job doesn't exist anymore. They've closed it all down. And I thought, that's ridiculous. That I can't be seeing that. And again, I'm still struggling with this. And even today, I can't just accept this. So many mediums have said, you've just got to accept this and go with it. So I said, look, I'll go with it, but I have to have something you can hang your hat on. I have to have some sort of factual reason that this is happening. And over the past, since 2006, over the past 17 years, I've found factual reasons. I've found experiments that have been conducted by governments all around the world and that I didn't know about there, that are proving there is an alternate dimension. My research stopped centering around the virgin birth and started centering around Egypt, which brought certain rituals to light. I discovered the rituals. I'd read quite a lot about them in the Colburn Bible. And then I get somebody asked me if I'd like to join Freemasonry. So I said, no, you're okay. Nobody's ever asked me before. No, you're right. I don't think that's really me, really. And then 2 weeks later, somebody else asked me, a completely different person. So I went, well, that's weird. It's like I'm being given another nudge. That's what I call them now, nudges. So I went, no, you're all right. You're okay. That's not a problem. And then it went another week after that. So it's 3 times in 1 month. Somebody else asked me, which was quite a close friend of mine. I didn't even know he was a Freemason. So at this time I went, I'm just going to say yes and go with this. So I said, yeah, go on then. Okay. And over the next 2 or 3 years in Freemasonry, I ended up taking part in the rituals that I was reading about in the Colburn Bible. And again, another very, very synchronistic event. And I don't turn down anything now. If somebody says to me, do you want to do this? I'll go yes, unless it's ridiculously difficult for me to do this. I follow my gut feeling a lot more now because of what I've found, the experts in each individual field that I've discovered that I knew nothing about before. And I'm much more, I would say I'm much more pagan now than ever before, to be honest with you. So that's the gist of how it started, and it pushed me onto a quest. I like to call it a quest because it sounds good. It's a journey. It's a journey that I've never been on anything like this before, but it's been a real eye opener of some of the experts I found and the things that they've proved and looked at. And I now know I'm not going mad. These things were happening.
Right. Well, I thought that you'd be telling me stuff that we already knew from the interviews, but it was a lot of new details that I didn't know about, which is quite cool, quite interesting. I was going to ask you. You have orbs and the photos. Does this still happen today? You take photos.
In fact, you saying that, I got a photograph from a friend of mine that I used to work with in a radio station. She was my co-host. She sent her pictures of a fire. And I'm looking at this picture. She hasn't seen them, but I'm looking at this picture. I've blown it up, and there's orbs all over the place. This is. I still feel like this is something that had been proven to me over and over again. But once it was proven, the synchronistic events. I don't know whether I've just. I'm just accepting them now, and they're not strange at all, and I just go with the flow, or whether they've eased off slightly. But it seems like there was right at the start a big influx of stuff and situations that I was put into, and then once I'd sort of accepted it and started looking into it, they eased off slightly. And that thought, I thought to myself at that point that no, someone is trying to prove something. I don't know who, and I don't know what, but they're trying to prove it.
Yeah, it was trying to make you aware of the orbs for whatever reason. I'm not really sure properly why. What do you actually think the orbs are?
Well, I now know. You get people turn around and say that they're spirits, and I can't. I'd love to be able to say yes, I believe that 100%. There is no doubt it's energy, 100% energy. but I can't take the next step because I've got nothing to hang my hat on. I can't take the next step and say they're spirit people. I just can't do that. It's logic inside me is going, no, I'm not having all this. So it's energy as far as I can see, because there's more orbs noted around monoliths than there are anywhere else. And monoliths, especially Egyptian monoliths, I've seen a few pictures of the of videos taken around Egypt at night when it was calmer. There was no dust being kept. There's orbs everywhere, all over this place. And on one of the film shoots, the film was called The Rapture, by the way. On that particular night shoot, on one of the night shoots, I was taking pictures of we was in a concrete crushing area. And again, there was orbs everywhere, which I've written off to very small particles of dust in the air. And because there's going to be dust everywhere, it's crushing concrete and the wind was blowing it. So I just wrote it off as that. But now looking back, I'm not so sure that I was right in writing that off.
Yeah.
Now, on your take with that, I was wanting to ask you that a lot of debunkers, when it comes to the paranormal, like to do that when it comes to orbs. What's your take on the debunkers aspects of it? Like they discard orbs altogether when they go into investigations now. I know that you never mentioned anything about that, but I was wondering if you have your opinion about that, how people treat orbs when it comes to the paranormal.
Well, I think I said something to somebody once. I can't remember what the subject was, and I said, "Oh, this means that," and then they immediately came back to me and said, "Well, I've just done a Google search, and the first answer said it wasn't that," and I went, so you're going to believe the first answer? That's not, first of all, that's not research. That's just having a quick shufti. That's having a quick look. That's all. That's not research at all. So proper research, you find your phrase and you keep looking through the hits that come up in Google, and you go through the first page, read it, second page, read it all, third page, read it all, rephrase the phrase again, and keep doing it. If you got one phrase in general that I was looking at was the Helios Biblios, which was one of the original Greek names for the Holy Bible. And that one phrase, I researched that one phrase, Helios Biblios, for 2 weeks, every day for 2 weeks, for a few hours a day. So that's a proper research. And what you'll find is the truth, like cream on milk, will come rising to the top. So when somebody says, no, it's a load of old nonsense, it was spitting with rain, they weren't there. And most of the orbs were inside. Because that's what I've had on I've done a different podcast. Oh, was it spitting with rain at all? I mean, not inside, mate. No, it wasn't. Not inside. Sorry. Okay, well, it's very dusty. Okay, then. Well, all these places are that dusty. If it was a working building site, concrete crushing place, yes, I could understand it would be dusty. So that's why I've written that off with all the orbs. But not everywhere. Not in my friend's front room. Not in the first 2 photographs that showed no orbs at all. And then the third one, there was half a dozen orbs. Not in a room that I was laying in Florence while my girlfriend at the time was in the shower. And I'm holding a camera up like this, taking pictures and asking for a certain amount of orbs and getting the answer that I wanted. That all of it is a good amount of research. But when somebody just says, no, I don't believe it, orbs are a bit of dust on the lens, and all, it just means they haven't looked deep enough, or they're not ready to experience that part of reality for themselves. Some people are very frightened about this. Some people are control freaks, and they need to control their reality. My brother was very much like this. He went up into the loft, and he looked in there was a big trunk there. He opened the trunk and he looked inside the loft. First time he'd been in this loft, in this house in Barkingside. looked in the loft and looked in the trunk, and oh, look, there's a gas mask wrapped up in newspapers. So he looked at the gas mask. Oh, it's in quite good condition. He's picked up the newspaper, and it was the year, month, and day. The newspaper was when he was born. It was his birthday, exactly. So he went. I chucked it in, closed the lid, come out of the loft, and I will never go in that loft again. So I went. That would mean look deeper. But my brother was so frightened, he immediately started ridiculing any experience other than it doesn't exist. So I'm a little bit gentler now with people that say, no, I don't believe that. That's fine. That's okay. It just means to say that you're not ready yet, as I wasn't right at the start. And I don't want to push you into a world where you start questioning your own sanity the way I questioned mine.
No, I like that. That's a good way of looking at it. I just figured I'd ask because I know that orbs have been a big topic when it comes to the paranormal and stuff. So that was all I really wanted to ask.
As far as I know, they're just energy. They're just, I won't say spirit energy, but they're just energy being emitted from Mother Earth.
I only ever saw one orb. It was on my mother's birthday, and I went through a spell where I was getting signs from her. Every year on her birthday, I was getting signs from her, basically. And I was going to take a picture of my partner, because she was wearing an outfit, she wanted to know what she looked like in it. And as I was taking a picture, I saw this orb come up. And I looked out away from the camera, I thought, it's not there. Back in the camera, and I could see it was there again. And the next thing, it shot up through the ceiling and vanished. And that was it. And that's the only time I ever seen an orb, and that was on my mother's birthday as well. So it was like a bit freaky, I know, but that's the only time, you know.
One of my friend's houses, he lives in a bungalow, and he's got this conservatory, and his wife couldn't sleep, so she's sitting in the conservatory. She's just laying on the sofa trying to sleep again, trying to doze. And she got the feeling that there was something going on in the conservatory that she couldn't. The dog's ears were pricked up like this, and the dog's, obviously disturbed by something. And she's got because it's right by the back door, she's got a camera on the back door that's capturing all this footage. So they sent me the image, or the images, the video footage, and I've looked at the first one, but I've looked on it on a 24-inch, because I've built myself a little studio, a 24-inch HD monitor. They were looking at it on their phones. They've gone, we can't see anything in the image. And when I've blown this video footage up, you can clearly see at the point the dog's ears pricked up and started being uncomfortable, and at the point when his missus felt as if someone was in the room, there were 5 orbs zigzagging across the screen like this, and one came towards the screen and went past it, another one went across, one went upwards that way, and then there was no more orbs after that. And then the dog settled down, and his wife settled down as well. So there's definitely more to orbs than we're thinking.
We've had a question on chat from Laurel in Seattle. She says, fascinating progression adventure. I am deeply sorry about your friend Russell, but he seems to be creating fresh pathways and bridges as you are. Thank you for your story. And a prayer symbol and a leaf.
It's fine. The reason I think, and I don't know, when Russell came through with Lorraine, I think when he's saying you've got a job to do, I think my job now, after all the research, I think my job is to tell people about my experience. Not necessarily try to make them believe in what they don't want to believe, because that would have a detrimental effect, as it did with mine on your own psyche. You do believe you're going mad, but just to put this information out there, I started researching what's called. I'll go into this in greater detail in the coming weeks. The 100th monkey experiment, where consciousness when more people understand something, consciousness gets to a tipping point where it's just accepted by people that have never seen that point of view before. And I think my job is to help tell people about my experience and make them wonder. Because the minute they start wondering and not believing, it's really important you don't believe one person. Because, when somebody tells you a story, it's just a story. It's just words. It's not until you start delving deeper yourself and looking and trusting your own intelligence that you realize whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. When you were telling the story about the TV and it kept changing channels, turning on and off, it came to me, the way I perceived it when you were saying it, that it felt to me that it was your mother that was doing that to show you, I'm still here, I'm still around. But you take from that what you will, but that's the message I got when you were saying that, so I don't know.
That was my...
That was your theory, okay,
my
that's great.
afterwards.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I'm just going to say...
That's quite a regular thing, There's quite an often... somebody dies and then the close member of the family get all these weird experiences. When my brother passed, his family kept getting a particular light in the kitchen that my brother designed. It kept flicking on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps flicking on and off. And when we cremated him, after that fact, it didn't hardly do it at all. But in the lead up, flicking on and off.
I think they stay behind sometimes to see the funerals and stuff, my sort of healing mentor, he is undertaker as well, and he says quite often he sees the spirits of the people he's burying. They're there watching to see what's seeing how the service is and who's there and what have you, So it's quite interesting.
That must be incredibly frustrating for them because nobody can see me, nobody can hear me, and I want to tell them I'm all right. So how do we go about this? What have I got to do?
Yeah.
One thing I did want to ask you, and I mentioned it to John before in chat, but on the Cauldron Bible, is there a way you could kind of like make a little summary to kind of explain what makes the Cauldron Bible so important compared to other Bibles and everything? Because I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching isn't quite aware of what the Cauldron Bible is, you know what I mean? So,
well, the Cauldron Bible is actually older than our accepted version of the Bible. It's supposed to be, and I say supposed to because I've not come across any evidence to agree with this. It's supposed to have been written by the Hebrews when they were being led out of Egypt by Pharaoh. And it was in the Glastonbury, I'm trying to recall this now, this was a long, long while ago. The Glastonbury, it was kept in Glastonbury Cathedral, I think it was, and then they had a fire, and then it was one of the finest, the last things that they rescued from the fire. And it's been picked up by the, I think it was the Colcadian Trust, something like that. It's on the internet. You can type it in, Colbrin Bible, Kolbrin, Colbrin Bible. If you go and have a look, it will explain rituals that was held, I think it's inside the Great Pyramid, although Graham Hancock, recently I watched a piece of Graham Hancock, he's not sure it was in the pyramid, although it does explain 3 separate chambers, one down, one middle and one up. And he said it may be one of the buildings that are now no longer there outside the pyramid, but it goes through the process of how they used to make a king a pharaoh, and this was the only thing that made the king the pharaoh. So much so, the Hyksos that was in, I think it was in Upper Egypt, they sent again, I'm trying to recall this. They sent two or three, it might have been 3 ruffians, if you like, to go and see the pharaoh, who the pharaoh at the time was Sekenre Teo II, and they've found the body of this pharaoh. Freemasons know this pharaoh as Hiram Abiff. So they've gone to find this pharaoh and get the truth out of him. But what they done was they went to find the pharaoh because it was the recipe of this brew that was delivered to the kings to make them pharaohs that they didn't have. They owned the Upper or Lower Egypt, I can't remember now. But the Hyksos tribe wanted this brew. They wanted to experience what the pharaohs experienced when taking it. And they ended up killing Sekenre Teo II. His body has been found, and he's got, when you're in Freemasonry, it's explained to you that Hiram Abiff was killed with a maul, side of the head, the front of the head, and I think at the back of the head. And the three people hit him once each with this stone making maul that they used to carve the stones with. And the whole gist of it was that they've got this body, and as soon as I see the dents on the body where the skull was cracked either way, I immediately thought Hiram Abiff. I done a research, and a lot of people have come to the conclusion that it was Hiram Abiff as well. So, and I didn't search until I'd come to that conclusion. Again, if you do a lot of searching, you'll be swayed by someone else's opinion. So it's best not to look at someone else's output before you've come to your conclusion. But yeah, the Kolbrin Bible goes into this ritual of the twice-born quite deeply. There are certain groups. I was watching a documentary a while ago where it was the Templars. They went to, I think it was Portugal. They went to Portugal and they conducted this ceremony that had the same outcome as the ritual of the twice-born, and they put them in the same type of place. They put them in a cave and moved a big stone across the entrance to the cave. That's the general gist of what I know about the Kolbrin Bible. I've forgotten a lot of it, but it's a fascinating book, and it has as much, in my opinion, it has as much belief behind it, for me anyway, as the Holy Bible. Possibly a little bit more belief because A, it's older, and B, it explains to you certain things that are real. I mean, our Bible would have you to believe that there's a man that walked on water. He was a magic man, and he turned water into wine. Well, now I know water into wine is a metaphor. The Freemasons have been turning water into wine for donkey's years. On the senior warden's desk in a lodge, they have I think they call them ashers. They're square cut stones. One's a rough cut and one's a square cut. It's perfectly square. That can be the example of water into wine. It's alchemy, to be fair, turning an uneducated person into an educated person, turning an unenlightened person into an enlightened person. And that's why I called the Water into Wine podcast the Water into Wine podcast, is because I'm departing this knowledge. Some people are going to listen. Some people are just calling it nonsense, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. But I'm just trying to do my little bit that I think is right.
I appreciate that. I had a little hiccup there. I ended up getting cut off Jitsi and came back on, so I apologize about that. But I just wanted to kind of get a little bit of an elaboration on that, because it's something that I know is important to you from when I listened to you talk and everything. And I noticed that you didn't like put too much of an elaboration on it. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about it.
If I hadn't have taken part in the Masonic rituals, namely the ritual of the twice-born, without the use of the chemicals that the Egyptians used to use, if I hadn't have taken part in that, I would have probably not put so much faith on the Kolbrin Bible. but it's because of the situations that I've been put in. And I was conducting rituals, and while I'm doing it, I'm going, this can't. I've got all the regalia on, all the apron, and all the rest of it. It's all dark, and they'd take it. And I was the one. I think they call it the false death. Freemasons call it the false death. And I was taking part in this, and I'm thinking to myself, this can't be happening, surely. I'm reading about this. I know what this is about. And it's all about Hiram Abiff. Yeah, it was a fascinating time.
I was going to ask you, your medium that you spoke about, Lorraine. Do you have any dealings with her anymore now?
Yes, I still go to see her every so often. And she told me about doing this, what I'm doing right now.
Really?
And
Wow.
she named it. What did she say? She said it's. How did she say it? She went, I keep asking, because her spirit guide is Ramos. She said, I keep asking Ramos, when is this going to start? When are you going to start doing your job?
Right.
And he's told me, and she said, it was a year beforehand, she told me. She said, she's going to start doing it then. And it was about, I gave one interview then, exactly when she said,
Yeah.
which led on to a second interview by someone else. And that's when you saw it, and then I'll come and done it with you. So, and I've done quite a few of these now.
Wow, that's coincidence, isn't it? Yeah, I was going to say about your meeting with. Oh yeah, the movie. It never got finished, did it? I was going to ask you
No,
about that.
it didn't get finished. It needed a lot more money spent on it. The director and writer was, he was a very intelligent man, but that I don't think that was his forte. Although he's been an actor for quite a few years, and he could not push it through the final hurdle.
No, it's a shame.
And it's, you can search it online now, the IMDb database. It's The Rapture, and there was Danny Dyer in it, Martin Kemp, Gary Kemp, Stephen Burkhoff, Alison Doody, Lois Winston, and the names just kept falling out of the sky of all these people that ended up doing parts in this film. And as far as I know, it's still sitting on a hard drive somewhere.
Oh, it's a shame. I'd like to see that.
Well, certain parts of it didn't make sense because this director was putting parts together without explaining, and they were very esoteric and occult parts, without explaining why that was being done. So certain parts didn't make sense. I see the connection. I know the connection, but the general person that isn't into this subject doesn't see the connection.
Okay. I was gonna say about your like when you were talking to Errol about the things he said, and I just thought it was just mad. It was just crazy, I couldn't believe it when he the very chances. What's the chances you meeting some random person in a movie who happened to be next door to when your best friend and when he got murdered? It was just like, wow, you know what I mean? This is like
was one of the biggest things that it was, seriously, and that's the best way I can explain it. It was like a slap round the face. Pay attention. And I kept going, this can't. When his eyes widened, I took a step back because he was quite a big fella, Errol, and he's ex-military. And when his eyes widened like that, dealing with the subject matter, I thought, hang on a minute, he's got something to do with this. So I took a step back because I didn't want to be in the line of fire. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest with you. So I took a step, and we ended up being really good friends because of this connection with Russell. But it was a very strange time, and that was. I remember having a cup of tea after that, and just sitting down and thinking about what's just happened. Is it real? Is it? I was still thinking to myself, is it real? Is it make believe? Am I just imagining all this?
Yeah. So I told my mentor ages ago, when I mentioned earlier, he said everything means something. He said every thought, everything, it all means something. Except obviously just the thoughts which aren't you, like the bad thoughts, stuff like that. If you get an image or thought in your head, think about it. He said, reflect on it, because it could
Yeah.
mean something. It may not mean something like here and now, but it could mean something in a month's time or 2 months' time or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in that.
Well, after this research, I now know everybody, every person walking the earth is psychic.
Yeah.
They just don't realize they are, and they squash the thoughts that they should be paying attention. And this is a very subconscious and conscious mind. Your conscious mind, which is the patriarchal side, it's the male side, or the sun, as it would be in Egypt.
Yeah.
It's to take part and to bang nails in and to do arithmetic, and it's the very logical stuff. Go and earn money and wallpaper in and all that. It's all the logical male things. Whereas your subconscious, the right hand side of your brain, controls the left hand side of your body, which is why left-handed people tend to be more creative. More left-handed people tend to be psychic or mediums. Whether they realize it or not is irrelevant. They get more of a gut feeling, and that was the matriarchal side, the mothering side, the female side, and that represents the moon in ancient Egypt. And these were, I now know, the two eyes of Horus, the Egyptian sun god. When you see an all-seeing eye, I mean, this goes through Turkey and Greece and all the rest of it. It's a good luck sign. When someone buys you one of these, it's a good luck sign. It comes from the all-seeing eye of Horus, which normally it's the left eye that you've seen, because it's controlled by the right-hand side of the brain, which controls the left-hand side of the body, and that's the subconscious side. That's the side that's connected, where the mediums get this information from. And the training that mediums go through, the meditation, is all to train you. It doesn't make you psychic. It's already there. It's done to train you to drop your conscious mind and listen to the subconscious, or let the subconscious views come through without changing them to try and mean something.
Yeah. So you would say, oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you were thinking. So would you say that a person who becomes more open to their psychic abilities is actually using more of their brain, or is that totally different? The physical, do you think it's not linked to your physical brain in that sense at all?
I would say, if you're becoming aware that you thought somebody, they call this, Carl Jung called this a synchronistic event.
Yeah.
If you think someone's going to call, then all of a sudden they call. That happens to everybody. You think of somebody's name, and all of a sudden the number plate in front of you spells that name, or the initials of that person you were thinking of.
Yeah.
These are synchronistic events, and these have come from your subconscious. Now, these, I think personally, these happen thousands and thousands and thousands of times, at least hundreds, every single day to every single person. But we're trained to ignore them, number one, and call it a coincidence. There are no such things as a coincidence. It doesn't exist. And B, to pay attention. And as soon as you start paying attention to them, you start noticing them more. And that's harder to do because we're trained to ignore them. So you think, I'm going to pay attention to these. So you notice 1, 2, 3, and then you forget to pay attention, and they fall by the wayside again. They keep happening, but we just don't realize that they're happening. There was a very interesting blog I read on the internet years ago, and I haven't been able to find it since. It was a guy that noticed these synchronistic events were happening during his life. So what he decided to do was just jot them down, because he had no idea why they were happening. Because whenever it happened to him, he just saw the one event and not the line of procession, what they were doing. So he started in a diary, writing this diary down, and every single day he had this happen and that happened. He noticed this, he thought that, and this happened. And then at the end of, I think it was 2 years, he got 2 diaries worth, sat down with a cup of tea, and then he started reading right from the start. And he said when he got halfway through, These events were controlling my life, and I felt like an actor playing a starring role in a film about my life. And he said that's the closest I can explain it, because these events were directing him, and he was originally just ignoring them. But by the end of it, he was paying a lot of attention to them. And they direct you, gut feelings. Nothing ever just happens. It's irrelevant. It's all of it is planned. A medium will tell you that we have free choice, and my belief is, yes, you do have free choice. You can choose whether to wear the socks and the big shoes, or to wear boots and little socks. You can choose the color of your socks because it means nothing. You can choose whether you're going to do something or not do it, because that's the type of person that you are. And I've noticed in my life, if something comes up and I react a certain way, if it's the wrong way that I've reacted, it will come round and happen again in a couple of years, or a year, or 6 months, but with different people doing it. So now I reacted a certain way from a situation. It came back a few years later. So now I know I've got to react a different way. That wasn't the right way. So we react a different way. All of a sudden, it all disappears. Almost as if I'm being taught lessons of how to react.
Well, we're here to learn. This is,
Yeah.
in my view, the Earth is a learning planet. That's why we're here to learn. Some lessons are very hard. Some lessons are very traumatic.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for, is to learn. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
No, I've heard some things too in the last. This makes what, the third, maybe fourth interview I've heard of yours, and what really pops out to me is, like, you always mention the number 3. And I don't know if you realize that or not. And if you do, could you tell me what your thoughts are on that? Because I've noticed, like, the 3 just keeps popping out. You know what I mean? Have you noticed that?
I haven't noticed that I was doing that, but that's very interesting, because numerology does play a very big part in everybody's life.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to mention that because it does seem like the number 3 seems to always come out. Like, I've actually had to go through and make notes of some of the stuff that you've said in the interviews when I interviewed you. So I just figured I'd mention that and see what your take is on that.
Well, when you look into the quantum physicists are now coming to the conclusion that this is what do they call it? It's a computer program that we are put into, and we are part of the program. Bill Hicks, a fantastic comedy. The man's got it, and he was heavily into his drug use, as he's quite open with. And he says that it's just a ride. This is all just a ride. Well, when you look at and that's a really good thing. It's just a ride. Bill Hick, put that into YouTube, and you'll see the end of one of his comedy shows, and it describes reality 100%. Quantum physicists say, because of this numeric thing that goes on, everything around us in nature, in reality in general, can be pulled back to a numeric value. That's how this reality is put together. So that's how they're coming to the conclusion, or one of the reasons anyway, that this is a computer program that we're in, built by whoever. Nobody knows that. For whatever reason, nobody really knows. Although it's expanding consciousness, you being here is just expanding consciousness itself. So, yeah, that everything does come back to a number. So it wouldn't surprise me if I'm doing something unwittingly and mentioning certain numbers over and over again. But I'm going to keep my eye open for the number 3 now.
It's interesting you said about winning a program, winning a. I think that. How do you think that would change if suddenly say, sake of argument, is 10% of the world's population are sort of awakened and open to their psychic abilities. How do you think that would change if suddenly it went from 10% to 50%?
Oh, that would.
Now that's going to change stuff, isn't it?
I would think it would just start changing. There is a reason I'm going to mention this. I started researching the Mayan prophecies, and the gist of it is, I'll go into those at a later podcast. But it was never the end of the world. It was a return of I think they called them Bactons. It was the return of the original Bacton, which is a series of 5,000 whatever years. And it's the golden age. It's the number one. So we reached number 5. Now we're going to go through number 1 cycle again. Everything's cyclical. And that was the return of Mother Nature. So this, because of that, and a few other bits and pieces I stumbled across, this is the second coming. This is a return to understanding Mother Nature, the earth, and all the natural forces, invisible as well, forces upon the earth. You know, even that, I say to somebody, invisible forces, and they laugh. So I said, we laughing at? Well, there's no such thing as invisible forces. Okay. So go to YouTube, type in cymatics, and you can see the very basic building blocks of reality. And you type in sound levitation, and they're moving things. Scientists are now moving things and lifting things and lifting them up, lifting them down, turning them over with sound, just using sound. Magnetism, the wind, and it goes on. They're all invisible forces. These are all natural things. There's no spooky dillos. There's nothing that is going to surprise anybody that understands this subject. Witches, so-called witches, black and white witches, have understood this for thousands of years. They're just masters of the art of understanding reality in its most minutest form. And this minutest form is these invisible forces. Gravity is an invisible force, magnetism, and I don't think we've discovered how many of these forces there actually are. So we're all directed by this, all of us, and we just ignore everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's the way of looking at it. I'm pretty much out of questions though. I don't know if Roger's got any. I
hope I haven't bored you too much.
No, I find it very interesting. I always do every time I speak to you, in all fairness. I really do. I don't know if Roger's there. Is he gone for a coffee or something? He doesn't seem to be answering.
I was done with the letter or the number 3. So.
Oh, right, okay.
The only thing I got to say is I remember the last time I got shocked when it came to electricity. So I know all about invisible forces, and some of them don't feel good, you know.
Yeah.
So, when people say this stuff like that, I completely understand where you're coming at, because like there's tons of things that are energy that are invisible. So for you to understand the concept of electricity and then say that there's no such thing as invisible energy forces, then that's not really too intelligent.
No, it's not. It's a very blind way to live your life, to be honest with you. And you're missing 99.999999999% of what's going on around you.
Yep. That's all I have. You did a really good interview, and I appreciate being a part of it, being able to ask you some questions.
I appreciate being here, really. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to just get all this out of my head, which is stuffed full of facts and figures and experiments that I've come across over the years, like the double slit experiment and so on and so forth. But I'm just happy to be able to get this out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this as well, because really how it's gone, really, really interesting, especially the fact where Lorraine predicted this sort of happening and stuff, because I'm normally one that can see the future. I can see snippets, I see patterns of the future, but I literally 6 months ago I had no idea I'd be doing stuff like this. Absolutely nothing at all. It just started from Roger interviewing me, and it just thinking, oh, there's something in this. It just awakened something, and then I interviewed you then a few weeks after, and a few other people, and it's just gone from there. But I had absolutely no idea that I'd be doing this. You know what I mean? It's just funny how things work out, doesn't it? It's
See
really,
that
really odd sometimes.
that's life.
It's
Life
life,
in general. You've got to follow your gut feeling. You have to.
yeah.
If you wait in line and go to work, come home and just do mundane things, watch whatever you want to watch on TV, and worry about who shot JR what that's such a mundane life. When this reality is so amazing, so amazing.
People don't realise just how amazing nature is, for example. They just don't realise how much. It's hard to put into words. Like, look in a forest, they think, oh, that's pretty. But there's just so much there. When you connect to it, I just can't put into words. It's just so much. And the people of this planet are trying to destroy the earth, or the way they are, the way they live and stuff. And it's just like, if you could really experience what I feel when I'm in nature, so to speak. I know you understand what I mean, and Roger. It's just, I just can't put into words. It's just amazing. It's a connection. It's a connection, yes, with your higher self, whatever. But when you're out in nature, it's just like, I just can't put into words. It's like I can't express it. It's just an amazing experience. It's just, I can't put it into words. I really can't. I just feel it. More awakened I am, the more I can feel just how special nature and this planet Earth really is. But before I was awakened, I just never thought anything of it. But now you just can't put it into it. You just experience it more, and it just.
What a big thing for me was when I discovered the shape of the nests inside a beehive, the shape of the nest inside a wasp nest, the alignment, the dust alignment on the northern pole of Saturn, and the Mercury going around the sun and the Earth. And every time it's in alignment, if you draw alignments between those things, it's the same shape. It's exactly the same shape. And there's only 3 planets that are like this, and that's Venus, Mercury, and Earth, all orbiting around the sun. This is not 100%. This is not an accidental thing. If the moon was a little bit further away, we would have problems with floods and so on and so forth. If the moon was any closer, we would have other problems that occur. It would probably iron out over years. I'm not into that thing that everything has been man-made. There is no man-made, but everything is in its place for a reason. And I've got a friend who's very religious. He said, yes, because God put it there. I said, well, God's a perception. I've spoken to people that have felt the presence of God, and there's no person, there's no man, there's no woman. They're all feminine attributes that they explain. That's where the phrase Mother Nature comes from. But it's 100%. It's not a man, because there is no sex in this alternate area, which we'll discuss this at a later podcast. But it's this isn't by accident. But no person, there isn't an invisible man sitting on a cloud with a big wide beard and a magic wand. It doesn't exist. That's not there.
No, I know. I was going to say something then, slightly off topic, but you were saying about the planets. I had a vision years ago of I was going to different dimensions. I went through a spell when I was meditating, going through different dimensions every night. I was in all different worlds, and one world I was in, it was raining fire from the sky. It was like a planet was dying, okay, and I never thought anything of it. I ended up talking to a guy on one of my interviews called Mr. Robot, and he said, "Oh, you mean such and such?" Said the name of it. He said, "If you look on our planet," he said, "there's an area." He just said between 2 planets there's an asteroid belt. He said there used to be a planet there, and he said the name of it. He said I had that. He said you had that vision as well, because he had the same vision. His girlfriend had it, and he mentioned somebody else. And he said apparently there's videos about it on YouTube, which I still haven't looked into, that there was originally another planet which got destroyed by where the asteroid belt is now, or something like that. So he says, I've never looked into it any further than the conversation I had with him. But I don't know if you've ever come across anything like that when you're researching about anything.
Well, in one of the things I researched and read about in the Colbrin Bible, they go on about the planet, and I'm going to try and recall this Nibiru, was it?
Oh yeah, but not that. Yeah, I've heard of that planet. Yeah, but it wasn't called that when he said to me.
An elliptical movement, and it isn't round, so it doesn't revolve around anything, but it's a stretched circle, and that's why this planet that is coming back to us. Certain people say the Watchers came from this planet, and so on. They're the fallen angels, so on and so forth. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, this planet, and I'm sitting and waiting for science to turn around and go, there's another planet that's just turned up, and I go, at that point, this is one of those pieces of information that I don't accept nor delete. I just store them in my head. And as soon as science says that, I'll go, here we go. Right, now let's look back into Nibiru and what happens. But yeah, that's the only thing, that planetary alignment that I've come across that used to be a planet that nobody's been able to prove.
Yeah. Whenever I'm the guy that gets into all that weird stuff. So like, I can kind of give you an input on it. Like Mr. Robot, the one he's talking about is like more of the New Age storyline, but where all that originally comes from is Zecharia Sitchin. And Zecharia Sitchin mentioned Nibiru. He also mentioned a planet called Tiamat. Now Tiamat is an old Sumerian goddess, and his theory was that they used that as a goddess, when in reality it was that planet that was supposed to consist of the asteroid belt.
Right.
And what happened was a catastrophe happened, and it blew that planet up, which eventually created the asteroid belt. Now, I'm not going to say I believe in it or don't believe in it, but that's the story that was laid on to me about it. But as time went on, the story kind of grew, so it's not just Zecharia Sitchin now. It's more people that believe in it, but they put a different name on it. Planet X.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Right. I just thought it was weird that as I was telling Mr. Robert about this vision I had, and he said, "Oh, you had it as well." And I thought, "What?" You don't expect someone else to like think. He said, "My girlfriend had it," and he was telling about other people who had it, and I thought, "Oh my God!" Because it was as real as I just remembered it being red, and I just saw all this fire coming down, and that was pretty much it. It was really short and sweet, and I forgot all about it. We were just talking, because I was talking to Mr. Robot. He was talking about hallucinogenics and how it would open up his mind and stuff. Not that I, like yourself, I don't encourage anyone to touch drugs. I don't do them myself. Just saying that's what awakened him, helped him. And he's a scientist, so that's why he went into that line of area, because he was just through science mainly through him.
Yeah.
And I happened to remember, I had this vision such and such, and he said, "Oh, you as well?" And I thought, what? I did not expect that answer. I didn't expect him to say anything. I just did not expect that. But so there we go.
Hallucinogens have had a big effect on humans and the way we are today.
Yeah.
I watched the documentary, and the scientist who was comparing the documentary, presenting it, he said if it wasn't for, and I think he said psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, if it wasn't for psilocybin, we would still be dragging our knuckles on the floor. We just wouldn't have evolved. And they're saying, or he said, that evolution is at the foot of all these hallucinogens that are natural in nature. And this was what the witch hunts were about. We'll cover that again in a few podcasts. That was never a war on witches. That was a war on consciousness.
Yeah. I think we need to get Mr. Robot into one of these shows, Roger. It's with Mike. I think it'd be quite an interesting conversation between two of them. I really think it'd be very amazing.
I got two comments I want to make now. with you, John, and Mr. Robot when you did your interview with him. I don't really think you or Mr. Robot understood how important that was, because like he was sitting there talking to you about all these experiences he had, and you turn around and say, well, I've had the same thing and I've never taken drugs. You know?
I did, yeah.
So I think that kind of opened up a whole avenue for him there, you know, because that was very important. And also, when it comes to society too, not just hallucinogenics, but what I found out was like we wouldn't even have freaking civilization if it wasn't for beer. You know, beer goes all the way back. It seems like the creation of beer happened just shortly before or shortly after they started building cities.
Yeah.
That by itself is something that most people don't want to admit. You know what I mean? The fact that their whole way of living is because of beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just that blew my mind when I first found that out. Like, and I don't drink beer. You know, I sobered up and everything, but I have the common sense to say, man, there's more than just a coincidence there.
Yeah.
There is, you know, when you stop and think about it. So,
well, the ancient Egyptians were heavily into beer and wine manufacture, and they used to be into anything that changed their perception of reality. So all the hallucinogens, this is what the fleur de lis is. The fleur de lis means flower of the lily, and this particular flower opens up during the hours of daylight, and it closes, submerges and closes again when it starts to get dark. And because of this fact, it bookended the day. So to the ancient Egyptians, it represented just evolution and life itself and reality. They used to take the lily and put it into wine, and there was a researcher that done this. And when they used to drink the wine after it had been soaked for a certain amount of time, they used to enter an altered state of consciousness. So this particular researcher took the lily and worked out that it was 0.6% DMT, and he said that it's the DMT, the dimethyltryptamine inside the fleur de lis, which is known as the mark of royalty, because that's one of the things they used to give the kings when on their way to becoming a pharaoh in the ritual of the twice-born. And it goes back before that, the fleur de lis. It goes back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and it's always mentioned with royalty. It's all over the streets of Paris as well. And Dan Brown said that this was because that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a child called Sarah, if I believe, and she married into the line of the Merovingian kings in France. That's why the fleur de lis is all over there. It's a flower of the lily, mark of royalty. It always traces back. I mean, the Prince of Wales feathers is the fleur de lis. It always goes back to royalty. And it's because of what was done in Egypt 1500 BC and before.
That's amazing, isn't it? Check out my mic on. Whew. I don't know.
There's a lot of information there.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
This podcast, I thought to myself when I started it, because I'd written the book and I'd still had all this knowledge that I was gagging to get out. So 5 years ago, I'd done the podcast, and I thought when I started it, I'll do it in short chapters like the book, very short chapters, so that because there's a lot of information and it gives people a chance to understand the information that's being given out, because it's completely mind altering. So I started it off, I thought it would be about an hour and a half. It ended up 7 hours of speech over, and I think it's 17 episodes.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I never knew I could do that.
Yeah. I started a solo podcast, and I did a few episodes, and I thought, well, maybe I might scratch it to about 10 now if I'm lucky. I think I'm in 20s now, and I'm still going on it. I don't know when it's going to end. You know, I keep finding new subjects to talk about.
But that's fantastic. People don't follow their gut feelings enough, in my opinion. They
No.
always want to do something for a living or go and earn money or just have this thought, and they just drop it at the first hurdle. It's so important in life to follow your gut feeling.
Yeah, totally
Follow
agree with
what
that.
you're good at.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Right, I think are we going to wrap this up because it's gone on quite hour and
Wow.
40 minutes. Anything you want to add, Roger? If we wrap it up.
No, I'm good. I'm just sticking around and recording.
Okay. Yeah, I started to get some mental blocks then. That's usually my cue when I start to hit walls. That's them. Yeah, tell the side saying, right, you got to stop now. Because I tend to when I know this is not an interview. This is just a podcast. But when I'm interviewing, I fly through the interview and all of a sudden I get to a point. Boom! It's like, oh, right, now I've got to stop now. This happens every time.
Yeah.
So it's getting that way now. My mind's starting to go blank. It's time to say, okay, end this now then. So.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's always great to talk to you, like in all fairness. Always learn from you, from things you say.
And it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. I love to give a little chat and hear your point of view on it. And any questions as well. I'd always answer any questions as I can, because that would stretch my knowledge, because this information is it's all in there somewhere. It's just that it was so many years, nearly 2 decades. Some of it's fallen out the other ear, and to make room for some other stuff.
You in my experience, you need you've got to get it out, because for years I didn't. When I was having stuff, I didn't, because there was no one to talk to. And as soon as I started to talk to people about it, I started to move forward. I think, oh no, now things are starting to progress.
Yeah,
It's like you've got to. You can't. Sometimes you're in a situation where you can't really talk to people because they just don't understand. But if you can get it out, you've got to do it. I think it's important, and I think it's really good that we're doing this, for sure.
there's a phrase in Freemasonry: once a Freemason, always a Freemason.
Yeah.
And the reason is because you can't be untold something. You can't unsee something. Once you see it, once you know it, that's it. It changes your life from that moment onwards. And this subject is one of those subjects.
Yeah, sure. There we go. Right, I'm going to end it here. And this will be, hopefully, if it's okay with you, we'll be returning next week this time, if you're all good for that.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
I can't remember what episode 2 is now. I did see it when I looked on the podcast, but I can't remember it offhand. But obviously, we'll be bringing it out next week. I can't remember it. There we are. But next week, I will bring you the episode 2, and it's actual. I think episode 2 starts when you start researching into different areas from the past. I think that's episode 2. I just can't remember which part it was.
Might be the works of art that I
Yes, it could be. Yes, I think it could have been. Yeah. So
what was involved in them.
Okay then. So we'll wrap this up. Thanks,
Gentlemen,
guys.
Thank you very much.
And cheers, Roger, for helping us out, for joining us. You're gone. Okay. Until next time, guys. Bye for now.
See you soon, fellas. Money go.